And welcome to this week's episode of Laughing into the Void. My name is Tom, and co-hosting with me, as always, is the lovely Rosalind Paris.
Hi.
You can watch our previous episodes and broadcasts on the District Comedy YouTube, Facebook channels, or listen to them on most podcast platforms. If you enjoy the stream, please consider making a donation of any size at districtcomedy.io. Alternatively, like, share, and subscribe to our stuff, as that also helps. Here today, we have Mark Colegrove. Mark,
Woo!
whoa, 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 yeah,
Howdy.
yeah. Mark is the producer and director of the indie films Driven to Succeed, which you can check out on Amazon Prime, and Isle of the Damned, as well as various comedy sketches on YouTube. Currently, he's playing guitar for the comedy/rock band Dingleberry Dynasty. Latest album, Shit Show, is available on
Hopefully not
Spotify,
last.
Apple Music. Yeah, hopefully not last. You heard it here first, though, if it is. But Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, all those, you can find their album, and you can find out more about the stuff he does at MudsharkMark on Instagram. So thank you so much for joining us, Mark. Let's jump right in. Woo, 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 woo,
Yeah,
woo.
thanks so much for inviting me on. This is gonna be fun.
It is gonna be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So like I was saying before we started airing, we always start and end each interview with the same questions. So to start off, how would you describe your sense of humor to someone who has never seen you perform?
Well, it's very, I guess, dark sense of humor and very satirical, maybe a little, self-referential, I suppose. And that's probably, Roz, I'm sure, has mentioned Mondo Baltimore a million times on
Yeah.
this show, but everything I do is somehow rooted in like being aware of what it is in some way, shape, or form.
It's a little meta.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like a big, like, Mark and I have known each other for 7
Enough.
a long time.
I said 4, but I have no idea. But it's only felt like 4, and maybe it's been 7. Maybe
long
it felt like
time
7
now.
to you.
Yeah, and I like to think of Mark as like a good fan of an elegant poop joke. Like it's like a poop joke with a little bit of sophistication.
Yeah,
Poop served on a
Yeah,
silver
like
platter in a cloche.
yeah. The poop is wearing a tiara and a prom
Yeah.
dress.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Awesome. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I still had myself spotlit. Don't worry,
Oh.
the stream wasn't showing me spotlit. But anyway, so that's cool. I'm kind of curious about how that's going to play into the whole. I've never heard of like comedy rock band before, except for like those Pop Goes Runk. Wow, I can't talk today. Pop Goes Punk albums. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, kind of where you came from, and maybe how that's influenced your passion for the music and the filmmaking, and kind of influenced your voice in those areas.
Yeah, we consider ourselves poo punk instead of pop punk, but we're
That's good.
defining that genre. But yeah, the music and comedy have always kind of been somewhat intertwined for me personally. Like I met the other guys in Dingleberry probably 20 years ago or so, and we were all
wow.
we were all roommates. The band's been around. It might be 25 years now, or 26. But we have to do like some sort of celebration show here at some point when we're all back reunited post pandemic. But yeah, we played together. We made a lot of movies together over that time period, like just kind of brothers in comedy. We have a film company called Direwit Films that made a couple B movies called Pleasure's the Damned and Isle of the Damned. We also have there's Mutantis behind me. We produced a bunch as well, but Isle of the Damned was the one I got to direct. And it's a B movie that's very self-aware of what it is. The humor all lies in how stupid the dialogue is, essentially. So there's no like direct comedy. It's just very self-referential, and yeah, everything's always kind of just been intertwined. I've kind of bounced back and forth from one thing to the other. When I get tired of music, I'll go make some films, and vice versa. Dixie, who's the singer from Dingleberry, him and I worked at Merriweather Post Pavilion for a few years too, and
Okay.
we got the
Yeah.
privilege of like, we made videos that would air on the Jumbotron, like in between bands. So it was kind of like, we went around and just found the drunkest bands possible we could interview. It was kind of like a heavy metal parking lot type situation. Yeah, so that could, kind of cut our teeth doing that. And we turned out, we were doing like 1 or 2 videos a week there. And, that really learned a lot from that, and just kind of kept the ball rolling, and still rolling. Slowed down a bit in the last year, but it's still rolling.
I mean, I think that's true for everything in the performance arena. But no, that's really cool though. What's it like? I gotta know, for like working with the same group of people for like a 2.5 decades. Like, that's gotta be crazy. Are there any challenges with that, or is it just like love and family the whole time?
Everybody's got their it's kind of like when you have a brother, brothers and sisters, their quirks and their idiosyncrasies and stuff like that. But it is like a happy family. We all kind of gel and work together. So that's, I guess, if we didn't, it wouldn't have lasted anywhere near this long. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta work together well, at least on some level.
Yeah, I joined so while we like lived together and made movies and shit together, I didn't join the band until like 5 or so years ago. The guitar player they had, he moved to Florida, and then I kind of swooped in.
You're in, yeah.
Or maybe
I retired, moved into a home.
Yeah.
You took over.
The Dingleberry Dynasty retirement home.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
so I mean, that's pretty miraculous, like for any band. I feel like, I mean, Tom and I have been performing together for like over 10 years, and we've been that was in 2 different improv troupes and now in district comedy. So that's like 3 iterations that we've been doing creative stuff. So you guys have been together for 25-ish years. Like, what do you think has kind of like helped that all stay cohesive? Because I think for most bands, they're ready to kill each other after like 3.
Yeah. I guess the fact that we've never had a hit record.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
There's no money to fight over. Yeah, no, it's just like it's a good love of doing it. We've gotten to do some cool shit, over the years. Prior to the whole shutdown, we got to open for Steel Panther, Mark Rebele. We played like some really killer shows that comedy was a good entry point, because when those bands are touring, they're looking for other comedy acts in the area, which there aren't many. Not too many comedy musical acts, right? So it's a good little niche to check, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you guys played with the Dead Kennedys. That was like your last show before the pandemic, right?
Yeah, it was the very last show at the 930 Club before they
really?
shut down. Yeah, so it was kind of it was pretty surreal, because I remember hanging outside with Sean Jones, like in the middle of things. We're looking at our phone and like, holy shit, Tom Hanks has it. Like, that kind of like made it real for some dumb reason. Like, we were making coronavirus jokes up until the point where Tom Hanks got it, and then suddenly it was.
Now it's real.
Now it's a tangible thing. But
if it can happen to him, it can happen to anyone, man.
Yeah. We had a song.
Tom Hanks is so relatable. He's just like me.
Yeah.
All that money.
We have a song called "Brush Your Teeth." That's about like having stinky breath and you need to brush your teeth. And we encourage. And the Dixie, the singer, goes out into the crowd with toothpaste and toothbrush and brushes people's teeth. But for that show, we changed it to "Wash Your Hands." And he went around with Purell, and there was like a mosh pit that broke out, for the trying to get to him and trying to get to Purell, which, now that we know how COVID's actually
Purell.
yeah. Now that we know how COVID's actually spread, that probably wasn't the most sanitary thing in the world, or to have people climbing all over each other to get Purell. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, I don't think. But
yeah.
You
tried to bring sanitized alcohol to the masses, I guess.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. And so like so you said you joined Dingleberry like 5 years ago. Like, when did you start making movies?
I guess I started making movies probably around 2000 or so, early 2000. Actually, yeah. So one of the first shorts I did was The Adventures of Frat Man and Pledge Boy, which was in college. I always had like well, even rewinding before that too. Even in high school, I would make, we'd be assigned an English paper, and we'd convince the teacher to do our own like, dumbass version of Othello, or like, on video, shot on my parents' camcorder. And we would always turn them into like a satirical. Yeah, it was a comedy. It was like, I remember our version of Othello had like a close up of a cat turd in a litter box or something like that. The goal was always just make the class laugh, right? And,
Desdemona.
Yeah, not much has changed, I guess, since then. There's cat turds, and trying to make other people laugh, and find some humor in some dark ass shit, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like that's like one of the main like things of comedy, at least from like some of the other people who have been on this show. It's like either like a way to like process or deal with stuff, or like a way they're trying to like help other people try and like deal with their own lives. Do you find that that's true for your comedy styles at all, as far as like trying to kind of give other people something they can latch onto as kind of a break from their day-to-day? Take a break with some cat turds.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. I mean, anytime I can turn my brain off and, for an hour or two and just enjoy something, it's probably, Dingleberry doesn't really get political much, or, it's just stupid, and that's the goal. I think we tried to do like a Trump thing once, and it didn't work out well. So we just canned it. But it's also, that stuff also has like a limited shelf life, when you're, sort of referencing a thing, it's like, oh, we can't play that song 4 years from now. No one's going to know,
right,
what Kafifi
God willing.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, I feel like that's a weird stickler for. We actually haven't had that many political comics on, because I feel like it's such a distinct type of comedy, and you're right, the shelf life is so short. But also, I feel like for a lot of people, comedy is like an escape. So if you bring politics into it, people are just like, nope, done, bye, leaving.
I think the closest we've probably had is Brooks, and he doesn't do political comedy. He's just also a politician.
Yeah. We had our friend on who's a alderman. So we talked to him a little bit about politics, but like he doesn't really make that his shtick. I feel like comedy is kind of his like life
outlet.
Away from his outlet.
That's very cool. Yeah, I guess if you're an alderman, it's unavoidable, right? It's got to work its way into your humor.
Although you did make me think it'd be really funny to like see how you could make a song about like brushing your teeth somehow bipartisan.
Yeah.
The room. What is it a metaphor for?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much fodder right now. I mean, you got the gears turning though.
Yeah, like your molars are the Democrats and your canines are the Republicans, and they all just want to be free of plaque.
Yeah.
And plaque is the lack
after all, guys.
Yeah, it's the lack of plaque is the lack of freedom, and everyone wants to have freedom. We got to brush together to make the infrastructure of our country work. Boom.
Yeah.
There we go.
How
do we rhyme? What do we rhyme infrastructure with? That's always the trick, right?
Try
to hush her. I don't know.
Structure.
I was like structure.
Rupture. Something could rupture.
Cavities. Ayo. No, that's not how cavities work. Anyway, no, it's good to think about. These are important conversations. This is how we relay to the masses. But yeah. Oh yeah. So I'm also kind of interested because you said that you have like produced some videos, more in the sketch genre for YouTube. So what's some insight into what that process is like? How do you feel like it is different from your more traditional films, just like feature lengths?
Yeah, so we had done a couple feature lengths at that point. This was probably early 2010s, 2012, somewhere in that time frame. And it was motivated by, there was a stand-up slash improv show that used to be at the Wind Up Space that our lovely Dr. Acula used to run, called the Regional Bohemian Hour. And do you remember that, Roz?
I think I was invited to it once or twice, but I never went.
It did, yeah. It didn't last. It was shorter than a year, and then I think he got sick of running it and booking comics and whatnot. And we tapped out. We were trying to do a video for each show, so it would kind of go like, the schedule for each night would be like improv followed by some stand-ups followed by a video to kind of close things out. And so it was cool having like that little deadline. We had to make sure we had a new video every single month, and so we tried to make stuff that was easy to film, no elaborate concept with 500 extras, and
Yeah.
You have to keep it simple. And it kind of grew out of the Merriweather stuff we were doing, so a lot of the same people, Dixie and some of the key like core folks kind of started doing that, and it was nice to like be as foul as we wanted to be too, because with the Merriweather stuff, obviously we were allowed to push the envelope, but it was a paid job, so we couldn't go too far, right? And
I'm sorry, I think I missed something. What's the Merriweather?
So Merriweather Post Pavilion, when we did the videos there, I guess that was probably late 2000s. So that was Dixie and myself going around and interviewing drunken fans, and
Oh, yeah.
they were.
It's a concert for those of you who aren't local.
That's right.
It's a big concert venue. It's in Baltimore County, right?
Yeah, Howard in Columbia.
Howard County.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's outside of Baltimore. It's like sort of between Baltimore and DC.
Mhm.
It's a big outdoor. I don't want to call it a facility because that sounds weirdly medical, but like it's a big outdoor establishment with like a stage, and then there's an overhang and seats, and then there's a big lawn, and they have these huge jumbotrons so you can see the show if you didn't afford the close-up seats or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah.
It was
cool.
yeah, it's a cool ass venue. Hopefully they get back to doing some shows here soon, but yeah, we did a shitload of videos for them, and then for the jumbotron in between acts, and then shortly after we it kind of morphed into this sketch thing where we were a little more unhinged and started doing stuff for YouTube. So we did like I remember at the time like intervention was big, so we had one where John Bennett was the host that's performing the intervention, and I remember we had Dixie in a diaper. He was a man baby, so yes, his diaper gets changed, in the video. So we got to do a little more than we were doing previously at Merriweather. But ultimately, I recently went back and watched that one on YouTube because just morbidly curious to watch some of my old shit,
Mm-hmm.
And that one was up over 100,000 views.
Oh wow!
Just because it had "man baby" in the title. And the thumbnail was a picture of John Bennett kind of wrestling this naked man, more or less. So for any aspiring filmmaker out there, just really tap into perversion and have half naked people as your thumbnail on YouTube, and you'll get a shitload of hits. That's really the secret.
Half naked people sells? No way.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Although you might have reaped like the benefits of YouTube having less sophisticated algorithms at that point.
I just teared up a little bit because the comments were like, "Oh, I can't masturbate to this. Come on, guys."
You are on the wrong tube, my sir. Oh my god, that's cool though. I'm surprised also that like a large venue like that would be so well adaptive to comedy, because that's one of the like not the best shows I remember from improv times with Roz was when we did the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium. That was like
oh wow.
It sometimes I feel like it can be hard to kind of translate something that's like you got to focus on what people are saying, and it can potentially be like really fast into a larger venue. Let alone if it's like a situation where it was like a huge stadium on a Thursday with like 4 people.
On the hottest day of the year, and everyone was angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds brutal.
Well, so were you guys like live when you were filming these skits, or like was there like at least like a radio delay?
No, so the Merriweather stuff, actually the perverted sketch I just described was not tied to the venue. So sorry if that was unclear, but we just started doing them after, you know, our tenure with the venue sort of ended, and we're like, let's keep this going because we were having a shitload of fun. So let's do stuff that's a little more unhinged. But we did, you know, we did push the envelope at the venue too. And God, we did so many videos. You know, I'm just thinking back to like, you know, we just find drunk fans and get them to do whatever. And, you know, I remember, you know, one that recently came to mind is just, you know, you never know what's going to come out of somebody's mouth.
Yeah.
But I went back and watched one of those videos recently, and it was like the shit random people in the crowd were saying, and that we were airing on the Jumbotron, like that would not fly at all in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the fact that this made it to air is astounding.
Yeah. I guess when you've been like making creative product for a long time, like you have to kind of like look back at it and be like, I don't know, is it strange to you, like when you look back, you're like, yeah, that was really funny then, but today that would not fly?
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes I'm sure you guys see this too, but like, so I'm either like pleasantly amused, like something's funnier than I remembered it being, or I'm embarrassed, like horrific, you know, like I hope this thing gets buried forever.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like that was actually, I think I like twitched a little bit when you were talking about going back and watching your older videos. I've done that from time to time to like try and like, oh, I wonder how my material's different now than when I started. And it's like, no, you don't want to remind yourself.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought that was funny. Or yeah, sometimes like there's a couple times I'm like pleasantly surprised and it's like, that's okay. That's a good one. Maybe I might try and revive that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have moments where like when I'm lying awake at night and I'm remembering every mistake I've ever made in my life, I get like flashes of improv scenes I did in high school or in my early 20s, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, I can't.
Why did we think that was funny?
Yeah.
In high school, improv was like just yelling. Yeah. It was just yelling. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yelling equals comedy.
Yeah, the louder, if your joke is the loudest, that automatically makes it the funniest.
It's, I mean, yeah, if it's so loud it's the only one being heard, that is technically true.
That's fair. Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of the improv I've seen it's always tricky because not, you know, most of the venues I've seen it at, you know, no one's mic'd up, so you gotta, you know, kind of project and. Yeah, I don't know, something like
the silent coyote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I liked, you know, being able to film these sketches and stuff, because a lot of comedy is subtle and, you know, muttered under, you know, or it's just a look in somebody's eye that you might not be able to see from the back of the room, so you get a good close up of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's definitely, you know, it's interesting trying to adapt shit for film for sure. I think like what shot is going to make this the funniest, you know.
Well, you also have to, I feel like for a lot of like the stand-up comedians or improv comedians we've interviewed, you know, like I'm not good at planning stuff ahead of time. Like I can consistently show up on time and perform, but you're kind of just kind of get what you get. And like, if anything needs to be planned ahead of time, like it's kind of a crapshoot for me over whether or not it's gonna turn out well. Sorry, Tom.
I'm sorry. I'm just laughing while you're saying this. I don't think that you give yourself enough credit. Like people are gonna think that you're serious.
But like as a filmmaker, there's a lot about your comedy that you have to like have planned out ahead of time, or like have, you know, think about, or like, you know, you have to be able to say, okay, that scene didn't work, let's do it a second time. And so like, how do you know in the moment like when to slow things down and like back them up? I guess that's kind of an abstract question.
Yeah. Well, first off, you're not giving yourself enough credit because you're fucking funny as shit, and you do it on the fly every week at Mondo. So yeah, that's something I could never do. Like I'm a little slow, so like I have to have shit written down and well mapped out. I warned you ahead of time. I'm like, I can't be that funny on this podcast. I can, you know. I might be able to say an insightful thing or two, but I'm not going to be funny tonight. But
We go for insight. We go for
but-
insight.
Yeah, but when it's written down, I'm pretty good. And that's kind of the way we rolled into the films, and like both the sketches that we did and then the Driven to Succeed movie that we did in 2015, 2016, which ultimately kind of grew out of the sketches. It was like we went from feature film back down to sketches to get that kind of like instant gratification, and kind of like to a certain extent really do quantity, so you learn better and quicker like what you're doing, you learn what works. And then we just kind of scaled back up to do this movie. And we approached it with like, we did have a script, and it had like, you know, some zingers in there, some good lines, but then we'd film the script and then we'd film it improv a few times as well. So we probably, any one scene would probably have, you know, 5 or 6 takes the whole way through. And then what ended up, you know, making it to the screen in the end was like a mishmash of scripted lines with like some improv lines thrown in. So whatever, you know, was funniest. And we shot everything with 2 or 3 cameras at a time too, so that you know, when you're doing improv takes like on film, you know, you will have one cut that's wildly different than the next cut. So if, you know, someone stands 5 feet away, you know, from where they were, all of a sudden it's not going to cut with the previous take. So the more cameras you have there, the merrier. It definitely it made it able to, you know, it made it easier to blend everything in the end. So that was our approach. And I'd say what ended up on the screen was probably about 50-50 of like scripted lines versus improv stuff.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point, because I feel like so often that's part of you know, the elusiveness that is comedy. Like there are certain things that like when you're writing them out seem like they're really funny or they're gonna work, and then like you get there the day of and it's just not landing the same. And sometimes like the writing does hold up, but a lot of the times it has nothing to do with the writing, and then it's like just, you know, how the actor's feeling that day, which is where the improv comes in to try and get that, you know, impulsive talent,
Crazy
whatever.
energy.
Yeah.
Shake can and bobbin head stuff.
Yeah.
That's like, I think that's part of why like the idea of directing like comedy shorts, or I mean like you did a full length, which is crazy to think about, but like, you know, because there's, as an improv, like, you know, you work on your skills and you go and perform, or like as a stand-up, you write your jokes, you perform, you work on your delivery, you work on your material. But I feel like there's so many extra steps with filmmaking. It's like you're writing the concept ahead of time, you're on set in person working with the actors, deciding how many takes you need, and then you're in the editing room like figuring out what's the best. Like it just seems like it's a whole lot of editing yourself.
Yeah.
And like, how do you feel like, so did you do the editing for the movie or did somebody else do it?
Yeah, I did the editing as well. I feel like well, I don't think anybody would want to take on that monumental task for free. And it's daunting. But then B, you know, I would feel like I wouldn't want to cheat myself out of that. They say like editing is directing for the second time. You get to, you know, comb through everything, pick out the best takes. I honestly, that was, I mean, the shooting was fun. You know, we were cracking up, you know, the whole time, but you know, it was also fun editing. Like it didn't feel like work, even though that's what I do for work. I was eager to sit there and, you know, chew through the scenes and get them cranked out. And if you're laughing while you're cutting it, then you know you're on the right track, you know?
Yeah.
I totally get that. There's like sometimes where like where I'm not, the nights generally that I'm not hosting one of these shows, I'm still running the tech for it, and that's always like kind of fun because I like watching the shows, you know. And like, yeah, I feel like editing, that's kind of a similar thing when you get to laugh while you're kind of working. But kind of going back to the whole movie producer thing, because there's so many steps to it and it's so different than like the stuff that we do. What do you think is like the biggest challenge in the filmmaking process?
Definitely the scheduling, as I'm sure you guys probably know that too from the, you know, podcast side, or just getting an improv troupe together, getting everybody in the same room at the same time, especially when, you know, this was a film made for $5,000, so nobody got paid.
Right.
That 5,000 went into basically all the props that any prop that you saw on screen basically was where that money went. So people with kids, soccer practice, just lining up that fucking schedule was a nightmare. And you get to a location and we've nailed like some awesome locations, but it's like, all right, you can shoot in our bar from 11:30 to noon a.m. Yeah, so you gotta
that includes setup and breakdown.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a lot of shit done in a really short amount of time, all things considered. But it wasn't like a real Hollywood movie where they're filming like 12 hours that day. We would be lucky to maybe get 4. Just working.
Well, yeah, but I also feel like part of the whole pandemic is I feel like a lot of people are recognizing that they like that content more than the mainstream Hollywood stuff. I've just been like seeing a big surge in like everybody's kind of becoming their own content creators now, so everybody has like that much more choice, and therefore like they don't have to settle for like watching whatever the latest Hollywood trash is, which is great.
No, it's back in the arms of the people. I mean, some of the funniest shit I've seen is on like TikTok and Reddit now. And they're like 30-second videos, not feature length. So.
And definitely not professionally filmed either.
Not on, not planned out. Maybe planned out somewhere. At least I give everybody that. This shit is pretty clever. These kids are coming up with some clever stuff these days, I tell you.
Well, and I think like TikTok especially kind of makes it easier too, because talking about the algorithm earlier, it's like you're almost guaranteed to have a somewhat successful video if you're like clipping with another popular video or whatever it is, stitching it, or like using like a popular song or something.
I don't understand TikTok and I refuse to use it. Ironically.
How is the government going to recognize your face?
I've been using Facebook since I was like 18, so I'm sure they have enough pictures of my face.
Yeah, and I guess you have a driver's license.
I do have a driver's license, yes, last time I checked. Speaking of which, okay, Mark, I want to ask you about this one scene in Driven to Succeed, because there's a lot of memorable moments in that movie, but I want to know how the demolition derby stuff happened, because like, spoiler alert, like the sort of climax of the movie happens at a demolition derby, and all the driving instructors kind of meet up with all the other characters and a car gets destroyed. So like what went into that, and like how the hell did you make that happen?
Yeah, it was an interesting, so I guess just jumping back for a split second. So one thing I guess I wanted to say earlier when we were talking about the process a little bit was we had the luxury of like writing. We knew who was going to play each part. So when we sat down to write the script, those lines were written specifically for those people, which I highly advise anybody that's trying to like, write a script, because a lot of times you get the wrong actor in place and like that dialogue's stupid coming out of that person's mouth. But also part of that writing process was like, we knew, to follow the 80s comedy trajectory, we had to end with this demolition derby. And I don't think we wrote it yet until we knew we would be able to get the location. So we reached out to I don't know we didn't have a plan B, so I don't know what that would have been, but we reached out to the location and they were like, hell yeah, let's do it. There's a demolition derby in Arcadia. Basically did not give a shit what we did. And they were super cool. They helped us, we were able to meet some of the drivers there. We went and sort of cased like an event prior to actually filming and met some of the drivers. Some of them offered to help out, with the film, give us some advice. We smashed my old car up, which at the time it was pretty much worthless anyway. It was like, the air conditioning had died in it. It was like 14 years old at this point. I'm like, okay, it's worth $700 in the blue book. Let me just sacrifice it for art here. So
Yeah.
we it was a pretty stressful day, obviously. You know, we had, you know, probably, you know, 15-20 pages of script to shoot in like one day. So that was one of our longer days. But
with the type of men who have been huffing gasoline for half their lives.
exactly. Yeah, we had to ADR a lot of it because it was, you know, so fucking loud there. But ultimately, the car flip went great. Like Dixie was, you know, the brave soul behind the wheel that it was. He really wanted to flip the car. One of the professional drivers offered to flip it, but Dixie was like, nope, I want to do this. And so we had 3 cameras on it, and there was this little you know, mound of dirt or whatever, and one of the guys just told him, like, hit it at this angle and you'll roll it. We were dumbasses. You're supposed to put in roll bars in the car, which I shouldn't be saying this publicly, but we did not do that. So at any rate, we didn't have time prior to the shoot. So at any rate, Dixie rolled the car. We had 3 cameras on it. It looked good. You just see, they were, this was back when we all drank. Everybody's like all sober now, but we were drinking while we were shooting that day too. So the car flipped over and you just see all these beer bottles roll out.
Oh God.
Consumed that day. And then we saw his helmet roll out, and we're like, the first thought on my mind was like, is he dead? Like, did we decapitate him? But no, he pops out of the car and he gives me a big hug and he's like, this was the best day of my life. I'm like, don't tell your wife that. You know, it was it was we lucked out, you know. All the stars fucking aligned, you know. You don't get that often in the filmmaking world, you know. Everything's got to work just right.
Yeah.
This also perfectly like mirrors the conversation we had at Mondo on Friday, where we were talking about so if you're not a horror fan, there's this movie called Zombie or Zombie 2, depending on what you want to call it. And there's this iconic scene in it where a zombie fights a shark. And we were talking about how they filmed that scene, and it's literally just a man in zombie makeup underwater fighting an actual shark with no insurance. And we were all laughing about how ridiculous we were all laughing about how ridiculous that was. And now I know that Mark is that guy.
Yeah, I mean, kudos, shout out to Dixie. He put it all on the line that day. Yes, we probably should have taken more safety measures, but I don't know. The one of the other, you know, pro drivers that we were consulting with was like, you know, when we were asking about rolling the car, he's like, I rolled my car like 12 times last season. So, you know, that kind of, it's almost like somebody going like, you know, it's fine to go out without a mask in Corona times, you know. And so we're like, you know, it put us at ease, like it's soothing, you know.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
You've reminded me, you're probably not the person I want to be taking advice from. Like,
yeah. You know, he sounded like such an authority at the time. He was so convincing that he convinced us. And but yeah,
to be fair, I've got just enough mountain blood in me where, given the chance to flip a car, I probably would do it.
Yeah,
I'd probably do it even without insurance.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We had so much shit to shoot that day that like we did end up, it was almost like a Hollywood production. I remember we probably had like, you know, 20 people on crew, and we split into 2 units and everything just to get everything done. And then some of it didn't quite turn out right, so we did have to come back a second day to finish out. But
oh, wow.
But yeah, they do the event like 2 or 3 times a year, so we only had those particular days. You know, it couldn't rain, you know. There were just the stars aligned. We lucked out.
it's also just always a super hot day because I've been to that
Mhm.
demolition derby before,
Mhm.
and it's just like it's like the type of hot day where like they have the fire department just like water everything down periodically with their hose trucks to make sure nothing catches on fire. Like
Yeah.
That's fair.
it's
That
always hot.
comforts me to know that they do that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was something they
Well, it's,
did.
yeah, it's put on by the fire department, so that made
Oh,
me feel safe. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
knowing that the jaws of life are not too far away.
Yeah, I mean, if your friend gets decapitated, luckily there are AMTs nearby and they can maybe sew his head back on. But you know,
Some. Oh man. But yeah, so kind of going back a little bit, is there a universal creative process that you use for like all these different things, or does kind of each medium necessitate its own specific method?
Yeah, I mean, no, honestly, no real creative process on my end. It just kind of flows. I mean, the idea for Driven to Succeed kind of came out of the job I took at the time. Had to drive a company vehicle, and then they forced you to go through a day and a half of driver's ed. So it got me thinking back to like all the shitty, driver's ed classes when I was 16. I'm like, okay, this would be some good fodder. But yeah, I mean, generally, on the films, we'll get together and like brainstorm, a group of people. On this one, we had, Brian Preston, who you guys probably know, and I know Roz does,
yeah,
and Dave Spencer and myself were kind of the three writers that we got together one night, brainstormed what the whole plot was going to be, and then we each kind of were assigned to write a third of it. Which
Oh,
that was
nice.
that was never done that before, but it just felt like a good way to break up the work. And then we kind of each went back over the sections that each other wrote to kind of punch them up a bit. Like Brian was the good one-liner guy that, he punched up some of the jokes throughout, and I think Dave was more of a good structure guy. So everybody's kind of talents blended well, on the
That's
yeah.
good.
yeah.
That's actually pretty cool because I feel like a lot of people going into that process would just kind of like dive into the script solo. And
Mhm.
me, that sounds, especially with a comedy, like you're kind of blending a lot of different skills when you're
Mhm.
writing a comedy.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like if you're writing a horror movie, you're probably going to need someone who's good at makeup. You're going to need somebody that can film in day and night or pick up the right sounds, and you're going to need to write a script. I can't talk.
It's okay, me neither. I've been fucking up words all night.
But so that's kind of cool because I don't think, if I was like, I want to make a movie, I don't think I would think to sit down with two other people and
Mhm.
split up the work that way. So that's a really interesting process.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was good, being able to bounce stuff off other people, as I'm sure you guys know with improv, you get better things a lot of times when everybody puts their head together. The horror movies stuff, those were kind of written in a bubble by my partner in crime on the horror side is this guy named Mark LeKay, who's brilliant, but he's like brilliant in his own mind. Like he's a really quiet kind of guy, but then he'll sit down and bang out like a knockout script in like,
Yeah.
a weekend basically. So I think different people do it different ways, but Dave Spencer too. He's a great writer that can write on his own, but I definitely couldn't. And
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, I wouldn't even make it through like the first draft of the script. Like that'd be too much.
yeah,
But it's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, it's all
interesting
about-
too, because it's like you talk about the different people being involved in it, and like one person being one-liners and one person kind of contributing structure. And I just think that that's so interesting because it's almost kind of reflective of like the people that we've kind of met on this show. They tend to kind of fall into different comedy categories too, like being more joke structured or more character driven or stuff like that. So the fact
Crowd
that
work.
you blended
kind
them all into crowd work,
Yeah.
are able to blend them all, but with this collaborative writing process, that's got to be like the main benefit, I feel.
yeah, definitely. And then like with Dingleberry, it's kind of the songs we'd always noodle around on ideas, and then back when we all smoked cigarettes, we would go outside and have a smoke together, and that's where the funny ideas would happen for whatever reason, and then we'd come back into the room and play it. You know, nobody smokes anymore, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to be funny anymore. But you know,
no one smokes,
I'm
no
sure
one
you'll be
drinks.
funny.
yeah, no
You're
one smokes,
horrible,
no one
Rockstar.
drinks. It's gonna be a
What do
whole
you guys
new.
do? Sit around taking vitamin C supplements and talking about your 401ks until some.
Yeah, get jacked up on greed.
Yeah.
Well, it's also nice trying to like just being able to like have the group together and kind of on the same page and immediately be able to like jump into realizing the idea that you just had together.
Yeah, similar to what I was saying about the editing, I guess once we were all laughing, like, okay, we know, okay, this is a golden idea. Let's pull the trigger on this. If it's like only one person laughing, then you know it's kind of like, okay, that might be a niche. We need to we need to do crowd pleasers here, right?
Yeah, it's interesting too, because like that kind of makes me think one of the first and probably best pieces of advice I ever got about writing stand-up was like, you have to think it's funny. Like, if you don't think it's funny, no one else is gonna think it's funny. So you have to at least laugh about it once for it to be worth like putting into your set. So I mean, I feel like if you're working with a group creatively, like, you know, when everybody's laughing, like, you know, that's when you've hit that sweet spot. And it's like with an improv troupe, like, you know, somebody has a skill when you're at a rehearsal and they're doing something in a scene and everyone's losing their shit, you know, and you're like, oh wow, so and so is really good at like miming or political humor or whatever.
Yeah.
I say that looking at Tom, knowing he's really good at miming.
Oh man, college. Am I right? God.
There's always like there's certain people, like I feel like I know too, that are like arbiters of good taste, and if you get a smile out of them, then you know it's good, you know.
Yeah, I think that's also, that's very telling, is if you can get somebody who normally doesn't laugh to laugh, then you know it's good. But like, yeah, I definitely agree with you too, Roz, in that advice that you have. That's like, yeah, if even you don't think it funny, it's probably not very funny.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so we are kind of winding down. This doesn't have to be like our last, ultimate, final question, but I do always want to make sure we at least ask it.
We like to jam it in.
Well, yeah, I'm just also like so bad at staying focused, honestly. Like, if I don't ask it now, I won't remember later. But nonetheless, what are your long-term goals in relationship to pursuit of either like comedy, filmmaking, the music? What are your long-term goals? And also, if there's anything more just on the horizon that you want to plug, this is also your opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely at a point where I'm like, I feel like I've done everything I want to do. Like, I'm just doing bonus laps now, so I don't know where it's going to take me next. I think I'll probably continue to do more music stuff, and I haven't. The filmmaking, it's insanely rewarding, you know, but it's also insanely stressful. And I don't know, maybe I'll be motivated by an idea or something at some point to kind of get back into it. You know, there's always like this inkling. Like, you have, it's always great fun to be shooting. The editing can be fun, the premieres can be fun, but there's certain aspects of it, like, you know, just the scheduling, not knowing if you decapitated somebody, that really like you know, are stressful fucking situations. And then
really relatable struggles, like whether or not you decapitated your friend.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll probably continue to do the music stuff, you know. Obviously Roz, Mondo Baltimore has been pretty rewarding, getting out, and you know, what you and Mike do is more of the artistic element. You know, we're just you know, kind of like DJs, right? Picking a movie. But I
don't know about that. I mean, Mondo Baltimore's been going on. This is our 11-year anniversary, right? I've only been part of it for like two, maybe two and a half years. Yeah, you've been part of Mondo from the beginning, haven't you? Yeah. So, I mean, Mondo's been around for 11 fucking years. So clearly you're at least part of the reason.
Yeah, no, we there's no shortage of shitty movies to show. So I think
That
that's,
is
you know,
true.
being able to appreciate a shitty movie, I think, is a sign of, you know, a good humorous personality, I think, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Would you
Yeah.
say? Yeah.
But you kind of touched on something interesting too with that, or it reminded me of what you said earlier in the interview, which was kind of like the idea of like you kind of have the two artistic outlets so that you could kind of like when you get burned out on one, you can kind of switch to the other.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk more about that, or is there like is it more like getting burnt out on one, or is it like the idea you're talking about of like getting inspired to go back to the other one?
Yeah, I guess it's more of a getting inspired thing. Some things just kind of happen organically with the music thing. Like I was asked to play in Dingleberry Dynasty, so I thought about it for a minute. Like, do I want to commit? Like, think about it for 24 hours. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a shitload of fun. I was, you know, asked to play in a band later this summer that I'm excited about. I don't know if I should spill the beans yet because he hasn't announced it publicly yet, but
Ooh,
I'll save that. I'll save that for later.
Exclusive.
But
Oh, okay.
yeah,
We get this close to exclusive content on the show, and then everyone's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna waste it on them." Nah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the dickhead because he hasn't announced any shows yet, you know, and be the dickhead that, you know, he's like,
If me and Roz and our singular viewer right now promise not to say anything, like these streams are like the best place if you've got a secret. Like it will be kept here.
I also have a joke really like niche to like local Maryland bands that I want to make, but I'm also like a tiny part of me is afraid that I might accidentally land on the truth. So I'm like holding a joke in right now. It's very uncomfortable.
I want to know what this is now, but I'll and we'll have a little wrap up chat.
We'll wrap after
Yeah.
the stream's down.
Yeah. But yeah, so on the music front, things have just kind of happened organically. I did an album over the pandemic just by myself in the basement, which is not comedic at all. It's just you know, some rock tracks that I wanted to get out because, you know,
You might have seen it on Netflix. It's called Inside. He goes by the stage name Bo Burnham. No.
yeah, that did get serious, didn't it?
No, it was a very serious one. But no, that's awesome though. Like,
Yeah.
also hard. Like, kudos to yourself for being able to like stay creative during these times. Like, it's been hard.
Yeah, not an easy feat, but I guess you just we've all kind of adapted to this like Zoom lifestyle, I think, to a certain extent too.
A little bit, yeah. I don't know where things are going forward, but you know, for now, screaming at my laptop is working for me. So
yeah.
Yeah, my neighbors not so much, but for me it's great.
Yeah.
Tom's in his closet right now. Never felt better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably the best for
What gave it away?
The sweaters. The
Okay,
sweaters.
that's
did.
fine.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But that's good acoustics. They absorb the sounds.
Honestly, it's not the worst setup. But yeah, it's good. And no, I was just gonna kind of follow up with saying that like, yeah, it seems like you are like one of those people who, if I had to guess, like has to always constantly be doing something creative in one manner or another. Like, where for people like me who have to like go at it like a mule, it seems to just kind of come naturally to you, which is very cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's been fun. You know, the album kind of grew out of like a need to do something while I was here. And probably, you know, I wouldn't have done it if not for the pandemic. It's like you know, I had this dream of like, oh, I'm going to get a band together. We're going to learn these songs. Then we'll go record them. But it was like, oh, well, shit, I can't get a band together. Better just fucking do it. And, you know, it's one of those things like, who knows if it would have happened in the real world where you're out doing stuff with all the distractions. So I kind of like having minimal distractions and, you know, nothing to
And
do
what's
every day.
that project called and where can we find it?
Oh, yeah, that's called Nova Colosso. So that's on It's Nova, second word, Koloso, and that's on Spotify and Apple Music and all those good places now.
Sweet.
But yeah, and then Driven to Succeed is up on Amazon Prime still, which I was looking the other day. I think it's not free on Prime anymore. I think you got to pay $2. So
I'm sure it's worth $2. Somebody almost got beheaded for it. It's worth
Yeah.
$2.
Yeah. We get I mean, before we were getting like 7 cents a view, so now I think we get close to that entire $2. And
Oh, yeah.
someone chooses to that. So, you know,
I will say Driven to Succeed is probably, as a person with artistic friends, like I've gone to a lot of artistic things against my will, out of obligation, out of fear of wronging someone, out of fear of
As is
disappointing.
always the case with art. Yeah.
yeah.
And I will say, Driven to Succeed was one of the things I legitimately enjoyed, and not just out of like a friendly compassion way, because I didn't really know you that well when I saw it.
Well, thanks so
So,
much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Maybe
I
you
will.
can talk to the director at some point, and we can like have a screening one day. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the pandemic, really, is it gets you out of going to those artistic things at gunpoint, right?
Yeah, if you're a friend like me who will never really have well, I guess people could come to Mondo, but I don't know. I don't really care if people come to my shit,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just like I'm just on stage screaming things into the void.
Yeah.
Screaming into the void, not laughing into the void.
But yeah, no, Driven to Succeed is great. It reminds me a lot. Okay, so I know we're kind of running a little short on time, but I've always wondered this, and I want to ask you: did you at all like think of it as a parallel to the comedy Used Cars?
I mean, it was definitely, I didn't specifically think of Used Cars, but, you know, there was another 80s like driving school movie. It was definitely like firmly rooted in the 80s, you know, plot structure where there's, you know, some stupid shit that like the mayor comes in and I'm going to seize the school from you regular kids unless, you know, some
Yeah.
outlandish thing happens. So that was the whole, you know,
Premise, kind of.
yeah, the whole premise was rooted in the 80s, but then the comedy itself was probably more rooted in like 2000s, like Always Sunny in Philadelphia kind of style humor, where it's like, here's a bunch of despicable people, you know, doing inappropriate things. That was like the hook, really.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so check it out, everybody. Let me spotlight myself real quick. I'm gonna take us out, but I want to give a huge thank you for coming out tonight, Mark, and having a little chat with us. Again, you can follow him on Instagram at MudsharkMark, and don't forget to check out Dingleberry Dynasty's latest album, Shit Show, available on Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, as well as Driven to Succeed on Amazon Prime. Thank you, of course, to my lovely co-host Roz for being awesome as always, and a big thank you to you, our audience. If you enjoyed the show and want to support the stream, please consider making a donation of any size at districtcomedy.io, and be sure to tune in next week as we interview TikTok celebrity star Sean Barry Parsons. But
I'm very excited.
Roz is very excited. But that's it for tonight. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Bye.